I never expected a single envelope to destroy everything. It was supposed to be the happiest day of our lives. Melissa was 7 months pregnant with our first child, and our friends had thrown us a baby shower at our new suburban home in Minneapolis. I'm Mark Stevens, 36, working in software sales. A normal guy with a normal life, or so I thought. The living room was decorated with blue balloons and streamers. Everyone was laughing. Melissa was glowing in her floral maternity dress, and I was floating on cloud 9. My parents had flown in from Arizona. Her sister had arranged everything perfectly, and our fridge was stocked with enough casseroles to last through the first month of sleepless nights. "Time for gifts," Melissa's sister Sarah announced, clapping her hands together. I remember kissing Melissa's forehead as she sat in the rocking chair we'd placed in the center of the room. "You ready for this?" I whispered. She squeezed my hand in response. The pile of presents was impressive. Onesies, diapers, a state-of-the-art stroller from my parents, and a handmade quilt from Melissa's grandmother. Each gift was met with oohs and ahs, Melissa's eyes welling with tears of joy every few minutes. "I need to grab the camera from the office," I said during a brief lull. "I want to get a shot of you with that quilt." The home office was a mess. Between preparing the nursery and my recent promotion, I'd neglected organizing my workspace. As I searched for the camera, I noticed the stack of mail I'd tossed aside earlier that morning. That's when I saw it. A thick envelope from American Express addressed to Mr. Nobody at our address. I should have ignored it. Should have tossed it in the drawer and gone back to the party. Instead, curiosity got the better of me. "Probably just junk mail," I muttered, tearing it open. Inside was a credit card statement. The name at the top read James Nobody, but the address was definitely ours. And the balance, $47,832.15. My heart skipped a beat. The statement detailed purchases of luxury watches, first-class flights to Tokyo, hotel stays in Paris, and cash advances. The account had been opened 6 months ago, right around the time we bought the house. "Mark, did you find the camera?" Melissa called from the living room. "Just a minute," I replied, my voice cracking. Something caught my eye. A charge for $20,500 at Baby's World 3 weeks ago. We had registered there for our shower. A sick feeling spread through my stomach. My mind raced. Was Melissa living some secret life? Had someone stolen our address? Was this some elaborate prank? I grabbed the camera and the credit card statement and walked back to the living room in a daze. Everyone was chatting happily, but I felt disconnected from the scene, like I was watching it through glass. "Hey, I found something weird," I said, interrupting Sarah mid-sentence. Melissa looked up at me, her smile fading slightly. "What is it, babe?" Without thinking it through, I connected the camera to our TV. Instead of pulling up the photos, I scanned the credit card statement and projected it onto the screen. "Does anyone know who James Nobody is?" I asked, my voice oddly calm despite the chaos in my head. "Because apparently he lives here and has spent nearly $50,000 on this credit card." The room fell silent. I pointed to the Baby's World charge, including a shopping spree at the same store where we registered. I turned to look at Melissa, expecting confusion that would match my own. Instead, what I saw stopped my heart. Her face had drained of all color, her eyes wide with something between shock and recognition. "Melissa?" I said, my voice barely a whisper now. Her hand trembled as she set down the stuffed elephant she'd been holding. "Turn it off, Mark," she said quietly. "Do you know something about this?" I asked, unable to process what was happening. Her eyes darted around the room, taking in our friends and family who were frozen in uncomfortable silence. "Not now," she hissed. But it was too late. The damage was done. Our perfect day was shattered, and in that moment, I realized our perfect life might be a lie too. After everyone left, hurried goodbyes and awkward hugs, our house felt cavernous and cold. Melissa sat at the kitchen table, both hands resting on her swollen belly, as if to protect our child from the conversation we were about to have. "It's not what you think," she finally said. I laughed without humor. "I don't even know what to think, Mel. That's the problem." She took a deep breath. "James is my brother." "Your brother?" I set down the glass of water I'd been drinking. "You don't have a brother named James. You have 2 sisters, Sarah and Kate." "Half-brother," she corrected. "From my dad's other family." The floor seemed to shift beneath me. "Other family? What are you talking about?" Tears welled in her eyes. "My father had another family in Chicago. A whole separate life for nearly 15 years. James is his son. My mom found out when I was 12, and that's why they divorced. I sat down heavily. In the 7 years we'd been together, Melissa had always said her parents split because they grew apart. Nothing about infidelity, nothing about a secret family. And you've been in contact with this brother? Without ever mentioning him to me? She nodded slowly. He reached out to me through Facebook about a year ago. He was in trouble. Gambling debts, some bad people after him. He needed a place to stay. So you invited him here? Without telling me? No, she protested. I met him for coffee a few times. I gave him some money, from my personal savings, she added quickly. But I never invited him here. Then how is he getting mail at our address? How did he open a credit card here? She looked down at her hands. He must have used our address without my knowledge. I swear, Mark, I didn't know about any credit card. I wanted to believe her, but the pieces weren't fitting together. And the baby store charge? A flash of guilt crossed her face. He did tell me he wanted to buy something for the baby. To be an uncle. I gave him our registry information, but I had no idea he was using a fraudulent card. I ran my hands through my hair. So, your secret half-brother, who you never told me about, is committing credit card fraud using our address? I should have told you about James, she admitted. I was ashamed. The whole situation with my dad was humiliating. My mom made us promise never to talk about it. That's why Sarah looked so uncomfortable when I showed the statement, I realized. She knows about him. Melissa nodded. They've never met, but she knows he exists. I felt a surge of anger. 7 years together, Melissa. We're about to have a baby, and you've been keeping this massive secret. I'm sorry, she whispered, tears streaming down her face now. I didn't know how to tell you. And then when James showed up, it all just became more complicated. Where is he now? I demanded. I don't know, she said. He changes his number constantly. The last time I heard from him was 3 weeks ago. I stood up and paced the kitchen. We need to call the credit card company, file a fraud report, call the police. No, Melissa said, her voice sharp with panic. We can't do that. He'll go to jail, Mark. He's committing fraud. He's family, she insisted. He's troubled, but he's family. I stared at her. This woman I thought I knew completely. And what am I, Melissa? What is our child? Aren't we your family too? She placed both hands on her belly again. Of course you are. That's why I've been trying to help him, so he can get his life together, be an uncle to our baby. By letting him commit felonies using our address? That's not helping him. That's enabling him. We argued into the night. Every time I thought we'd reached the bottom of the deception, another layer revealed itself. James had been to our house, had actually stayed here for 2 nights when I was on a business trip to Boston. Melissa had given him more than just some money, nearly $12,000 over the past year, almost all of her personal savings. What happens when these creditors come after us? I asked. What happens when bad people show up at our door looking for your brother? She had no answers, just tears and apologies. I slept in the guest room that night, surrounded by baby gifts we hadn't put away. As I stared at the ceiling, I wondered how many other secrets my wife was keeping from me. The next morning, I woke to an empty house and a note on the kitchen counter. Gone to Sarah's. Need space to think. I love you. I called in sick to work and spent the day in a fog, alternating between anger, hurt, and worry. By evening, I'd made up my mind. I would fix this mess myself, with or without Melissa's help. I started with the credit card company, explaining that someone had fraudulently used our address. They were surprisingly understanding and put a freeze on the account. Next, I filed a police report, being careful to emphasize that while the address was ours, the name on the account was not. Then I did something I'm not proud of. I went through Melissa's laptop. Her password was the same as always. Our anniversary followed by her mother's maiden name. In her email, I found messages from JN dating back 14 months. I read them all, my stomach churning with each revelation. James Nobody wasn't just Melissa's half-brother with gambling problems. He was a con artist with a record in 3 states. He'd spent time in prison for identity theft. And worst of all, he'd used similar tactics with his other half-sisters. Sarah had been spared only because she was more cautious than Melissa. The most recent email was from 3 days ago. Need to lay low for a while. Some people are looking for me. Might need to crash at your place again. Don't tell Mark. I know you understand. Family first, right? Jay. My hands shook as I closed the laptop. This wasn't just about secrets and lies anymore. This was about safety. My safety. Melissa's safety. our unborn child's safety. I called Sarah's house. When Melissa answered, I didn't give her a chance to speak. I know everything, I said. I read the emails. James is a convicted felon, and he's planning to come here again. Silence on the other end, then a shaky inhale. Mark, I can explain. No more explanations, I cut her off. No more lies. You have a choice to make, Melissa, right now. Either you come home and we deal with this together, which means calling the police about James and getting a restraining order, or you stay with Sarah and continue protecting a criminal instead of your family. It's not that simple, she protested. Actually, it is. I'm not asking you to stop loving your brother. I'm asking you to stop enabling him and start protecting our child. More silence. Then, I'll be home in an hour. True to her word, Melissa returned 60 minutes later. She looked exhausted, her eyes red-rimmed, one hand supporting her lower back as she walked through the door. I called the police, she said without preamble. Told them everything about James. They're going to increase patrols in our neighborhood and contact us if they find him. Relief washed over me. Thank you. She nodded, not meeting my eyes. I also called my therapist. I've been seeing her for the past year, trying to work through all of this. The guilt about keeping secrets from you. The manipulation from James. You've been in therapy? This was yet another revelation. Twice a month, she confirmed. I should have told you that too. We sat on the couch, a cushion's width between us. Close, but not touching. I'm still angry, I admitted, and hurt, and scared. I know, she said softly. I'm all those things too. Scared of losing you. Scared of James. Scared of being a terrible mother. You're not going to be a terrible mother, I said automatically. She finally looked at me. How do you know? I've made such a mess of everything. Because you made a choice today, I said. The right choice. The hard choice. We talked for hours that night. More honestly than we had in years. Melissa revealed the full extent of her father's betrayal. How it had shattered her ability to trust. How she'd spent her life compartmentalizing to avoid pain. I shared my fear that our entire relationship might be built on half-truths and omissions. No, she insisted. Everything between us is real. I just kept parts of myself hidden because I was ashamed. 2 days later, the police called. They'd arrested James at a motel just outside the city. He had credit cards in 5 different names and was wanted in Wisconsin for similar fraud schemes. Melissa cried when she heard the news, a complicated mixture of relief and grief. I held her as she sobbed, understanding for the first time the true complexity of her pain. What do we do now? She asked, when the tears subsided. We rebuild, I said simply. One truth at a time. A month later, our son was born, healthy, loud, and perfect. We named him Thomas, after my grandfather. As Melissa held him in the hospital bed, exhausted but radiant, she looked up at me. No more secrets, she promised. No more Mr. Nobody. I kissed her forehead, then our sons. Just us, I agreed. Just family. The envelope that arrived on our baby shower day had nearly destroyed us. But in forcing us to confront the lies between us, it had also saved us. Sometimes I think that's how truth works. It breaks you apart before it makes you whole again.